He gave everything to his wife and kids, until he opened his daughter's wedding photos and realized he hadn't just lost his seed at the wedding. He'd been replaced. Calvin Brooks had concrete in his lungs, sweat on his back, and love wrapped in a silver box. That morning, he stood in front of the mirror in his small hallway bathroom, rubbing his sore shoulder with one hand and holding a dull razor in the other. His beard had gotten thick, tangled. Weeks of overtime shifts left little time for vanity. But today mattered. He wanted to look right when he walked his only daughter down the aisle. Back in the bedroom, he picked up the box. It had taken 3 months of doubled shifts to afford the delicate chain and pearl pendant inside. Grace had admired it once, briefly, offhandedly, in the window of a jewelry shop downtown. She probably forgot. Calvin hadn't. That's the thing about working-class fathers. They don't forget what makes their daughters smile. He walked down the hall, dust still clinging to the denim of his jeans, and found Mara, his wife of 23 years, sitting at the breakfast bar, tapping away at her phone. A designer bag sat beside her, new, another thing he hadn't bought. He set the box on the counter, trying to control his breathing. I want to give this to Grace. Before the ceremony. Something quiet. Just the two of us. Mara didn't look up. What ceremony? She said flatly. His smile wavered. The wedding. Tomorrow. She placed her phone down, looked at him, bored, distant, polished in a way that made him feel like he didn't belong in his own house. Grace got married last Saturday, she said. The kitchen went silent. The hum of the fridge suddenly too loud. The silver box looked stupid sitting there, untouched. You're joking, Calvin said slowly. I didn't walk her down the aisle. Mara slid her phone across the counter. Wedding photos filled the screen. Grace glowing in a soft lace gown. A vineyard ceremony. Guests in gold chairs. A violinist in the background. And a man Calvin didn't recognize. Tall, lean, gray at the temples, holding her arm, walking her down the aisle. He couldn't speak. His name's Cliff Weston, Mara added, almost casually. Grace wanted someone with more presence. Calvin's chest tightened. More presence. He's known in the city. Real estate, mostly. Got her fiancé that job at the investment firm. They're close. Close. The words seared his ears like fire. You knew. I helped plan it. He looked down at the box. The ribbon unraveled a little, as if the object itself was deflating. You could have told me. She shrugged. You're always working, Calvin. Always too tired. Grace needed more than what you could offer. The front door opened. Gavin, their 19-year-old son, walked in, headphones around his neck. He bit into an apple and said between crunches, Cliff's cool. Took us to his beach house last month. Got me a new watch. Check this out. He held up his wrist. A sleek, silver timepiece sparkled. You're wearing a watch from some man who replaced your father. He didn't replace you. Gavin laughed. He upgraded the whole family. Calvin's hands curled into fists, but he said nothing. His heart wasn't beating anymore. It was sinking like rebar into wet cement. That night, long after the house had gone quiet, Calvin sat at the dining room table with a glass of whiskey and a laptop. He opened their joint account. The final wedding payment, $9,800, had just cleared. He canceled it immediately. Then he opened a new spreadsheet. Sheet title, Reckoning. Column A name. Column B, Offense. Column C, Amount. Column D, Status. Row 1, Mara Brooks. Infidelity, deception, disloyalty, TBD. In progress. The silver box remained unopened on the table. Tomorrow, he wasn't giving it to Grace. Tomorrow, he was going to war. The next morning, the house felt colder. Calvin didn't eat, didn't speak. He stood by the kitchen window, staring blankly at the backyard fence he built with his bare hands 15 years ago. The same one Grace had painted purple when she was 10. The same one Gavin crashed his bike into when he was 6, crying for his dad. Now those memories felt like borrowed time. Someone else had moved into their places. He finally moved when the doorbell rang. Twice, sharp and impatient. It was a florist. Pink and white orchids. To Grace and Noah. From Cliff, the note read. The flowers landed in the trash before the driver backed out of the driveway. Mara emerged from the hallway, towel around her shoulders, hair damp and curled. She paused, catching his stare. What? He said nothing. You're still upset? You let another man walk my daughter down the aisle. She wanted him to. He's done more for her future in 6 months than you have in 20 years. The words landed like glass to the throat. But he didn't flinch. I poured concrete for 20 years so she could have a future. Paid for her tuition, her car, the house she grew up in. And Cliff paid for the wedding, Mara said, and gave Gavin his internship. And he's been helping me manage the household accounts, too. Calvin blinked. What do you mean helping? She looked at him like he was slow. Budgeting. Investments. Future planning. He sat down at the dining table and turned on his laptop. Show me the accounts. Mara crossed her arms. You don't trust me? Show me. Reluctantly, she gave him the login. Calvin's stomach twisted as he clicked through the statements. Their home renovation fund was down by nearly $30,000. Transferred, over 4 months, to an unknown LLC account labeled Weston Global Holdings. His hands trembled as he clicked into the transaction history. And there it was. Wire transfers. Luxury hotel names. Restaurants. Out-of-state charges when Mara claimed she was visiting her sister. He looked up. You gave him access to our finances. I didn't. He was helping. He knows investments, Calvin. You just know how to mix cement. And did he mix your morals while he was at it? Mara's face turned red. You're being dramatic. No, Calvin said, rising slowly. I'm being quiet. Which is worse? That night, he met with an old friend, a divorce attorney named Sam Pierce. Calvin didn't waste time on pleasantries. He showed him screenshots, bank transfers, names. Sam read in silence, then leaned back. You can freeze all joint assets immediately. Do it. You're sure? She let another man hold my daughter's hand in my place. She let our son wear that man's name on his wrist. And now she's handing him the future I built. Sam nodded. Then we go nuclear. The next morning, the court order was signed. Every joint account. Frozen. Calvin spent the afternoon at the job site, pouring driveway foundation in brutal heat, letting sweat cleanse the anger from his skin. But it didn't help, because while he worked, always while he worked, someone else was home, rewriting the history he built. That evening, Gavin stormed into the house, waving his phone. What the hell, Dad? My internship check didn't clear. Mom's card got declined at the salon. What are you doing? Taking back what's mine, Calvin said calmly. You're blowing up the whole family. The family already blew itself up, Calvin replied. I just stopped paying the gas bill. Gavin's voice cracked. You're jealous of Cliff because he has everything you don't. He has debt, shady businesses, and fake smiles. I have integrity. No one cares about integrity when they're broke. And no one respects wealth that's built on lies. You're ruining everything. No, Calvin said, stepping closer. I'm just done funding betrayal. Before Gavin could reply, Calvin pulled a manila envelope from a drawer and handed it to him. What's this? Read it. Inside were documents for a legal name change petition. Gavin Brooks to Gavin Weston. Calvin's jaw twitched. You already filed this. Gavin's face turned red. Cliff said it would help with colleges, internships, perception matters. Calvin's voice dropped to a whisper. Perception doesn't change blood. It doesn't erase who raised you. I want a better life, Gavin snapped. Calvin stared at him, eyes cold and still. Then start earning it. He left the room in silence, the echo of his boots a quiet promise. This war wasn't just about betrayal. It was about identity, and he was going to make sure they remembered who they tried to erase. Weston Global Realty occupied the top 3 floors of a skyscraper that looked like it belonged to a different planet. Sleek, arrogant, steel and glass, reflecting a world Calvin Brooks had never stepped into. Until today, he walked into the marble lobby wearing his work boots, cement-stained jeans, a denim jacket with the name of his small concrete company stitched over his chest. People stared. Receptionists whispered. Calvin didn't care. He wasn't here to impress. He was here to inspect the rot. I'm here to see Cliff Weston, he said to the young woman behind the desk, her glossed lips parting slightly when she saw his rough exterior. Do you have an appointment? No. I have history. Something about his voice made her pick up the phone. 5 minutes later, the frosted glass doors parted and out stepped Cliff Weston. Silver hair, perfect skin, a custom suit so sharp it looked dangerous. Mr. Brooks, Cliff said with a salesman's smile. I've heard a lot about you. Calvin didn't extend his hand, just looked him over like a broken beam that needed tearing out. We need to talk, Calvin said. Now. Cliff hesitated. Gavin's upstairs. We were just. I said now. He saw it then. Just a flicker behind Cliff's eyes. A twitch. A hesitation. Calvin followed him down the hallway into a private office, so large it could have housed Calvin's entire childhood home. Photos on the wall. Politicians. Celebrities. Newspaper articles framed in gold. Cliff moved behind his desk, calm, composed. I understand you're upset. Calvin didn't sit. He remained standing, solid, grounded like the foundations he built for a living. You took my seat at my daughter's wedding. She invited me. You mentor my son. I gave him a shot at a future. You slept with my wife. Cliff exhaled. Look, I know how this must feel. You don't know anything, Calvin snapped. You walked in with your money and your gifts and your promises, and they gave you everything I bled to build. Cliff's smile cracked slightly. Calvin stepped forward. Here's what you don't understand. You're not dealing with a man you can outspend or outtalk. You're dealing with someone who remembers where the bones are buried. What do you want? Cliff asked, dropping the act now. I want you to know what's coming, Calvin said. I know about Weston Global Holdings, the shell companies, the stolen renovation funds, my wife's name on accounts I never signed off on. For the first time, Cliff looked uncertain. I also know about the hotel charges, the out-of-state transfers, the business trips you two took while I was working 16-hour days. Cliff leaned back. You've been digging. No, Calvin said. I've been building. And now I'm building something else, your downfall. Cliff stood now, his voice sharpened. You really think this will end the way you want? I think it'll end the way you deserve. Outside the glass wall, the city looked peaceful. But inside, the tension was splitting at the seams. I've already frozen the joint accounts. I've filed for divorce. I've locked down my business assets. And tomorrow, a forensic accountant walks your books. Cliff's jaw tightened. You're playing with fire. No, Calvin whispered. You are. You just didn't expect the guy covered in concrete to carry the match. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. You stole my family with lies and money. Now I'm taking back the truth. And you won't like how it feels to lose something that can't be bought. That night, Calvin sat at the dining table again. But this time, there was no silver box. Just a stack of documents, a bottle of bourbon, and his lawyer on speakerphone. By morning, 3 government offices would receive anonymous packages. IRS, State Attorney General, and the FBI's White-Collar Crimes Division. Inside each, documents connecting Weston Global Holdings to wire fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, and shell companies across state lines. With Mara's signature on half of them, Calvin wasn't just burning bridges. He was burning the empire they tried to erase him from. And the fire had just begun. By dawn, Meridian Tower was no longer made of glass and steel. It was made of headlines. FBI raids Weston Global and multi-state fraud investigation. Real estate mogul linked to tax evasion, shell companies. Sources confirm executive associate implicated, Mara Brooks. The news broke before most people had their coffee. But Calvin Brooks was already on his second cup. He sat in his office, a modest trailer at a job site in Westfield, watching live footage on a grainy screen as federal agents marched out with file boxes, hard drives, and Cliff Weston's spotless reputation in shackles. The man who replaced him was now being replaced by criminal charges. His phone buzzed nonstop. Calls, voicemails, even Gavin. He ignored them all. But when the name Mara flashed across the screen, he answered. Her voice cracked instantly. They arrested Cliff. Froze the accounts. The agents, they're saying I'm part of it. Calvin didn't blink. Are they wrong? I didn't know. You signed. I didn't understand what I was signing. You understood enough to drain $30,000 from our house fund. You understood enough to commit fraud. You understood enough to lie to your children and lie to me. They're saying I need a lawyer. You'll need several. You did this, she screamed. You reported us. No, he said. I revealed you. She sobbed. Please, Calvin. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did. He ended the call and placed his phone screen down. The concrete mixer churned outside, a low mechanical hum. The sound of progress. That afternoon, a black Lexus pulled up to the job site. Gavin climbed out, hair disheveled. No watch, no designer shoes. Just old jeans and sneakers stained from something real. He walked straight to Calvin's trailer and barged in without knocking. You ruined everything. No, Calvin replied, leaning against the filing cabinet. You mean I ruined your shortcuts? Cliff was going to change my life. He was going to use you. Same way he used your mother. And now look where that got you. You're a monster, Gavin shouted. You blew up this family out of spite. Calvin walked over to a drawer, pulled out a thick folder, and slammed it on the desk. Look, read every single page. My money. Stolen. My name. Erased. My daughter. Walked down the aisle by a criminal. And you, my son, applied to change his last name to match the man who destroyed us. I didn't know. Gavin cried. I didn't know how deep it went. You didn't want to know. You wanted the illusion. The luxury. You didn't care where it came from. Gavin's voice broke. What am I supposed to do now? College rejected me. My internship's gone. Cliff's accounts are locked. Mom might go to prison. Grace doesn't talk to me. What do I do now? Grow up, Calvin said. Do what I did. Wake up at 5. Earn your rent. Build your future one block at a time. That's not the life I wanted. You wanted it easy, Calvin snapped. You wanted silver spoons and champagne invites. But real life, it tastes like dust and takes years to cook. Gavin slumped into a chair. I thought you'd be the one person to understand. I do understand, Calvin said, softer now. I understand what it's like to be betrayed. And I understand what it's like to keep working anyway. There was a long silence. Then Gavin reached into his jacket and pulled out a folded envelope. Another petition for name change. Same request. Gavin Brooks to Gavin Weston. Calvin opened it slowly. For a second, Gavin looked hopeful. Then he took a pen and slashed a hard line across the form. Denied, permanently. Gavin's lip trembled. You're heartless. No, Calvin replied. I just learned not to gift my name to people who try to throw it away. He handed the papers back and pointed to the door. Time for you to carry your own. As Gavin left, his shoulders sagged like a man twice his age. Calvin watched him go, then turned back to his workbench. He still had foundations to pour. The courthouse was packed. Reporters jostled outside for camera angles. Inside, murmurs echoed off the marble walls. Investors, ex-employees, victims all waiting for one name to be called. Cliff Weston. Calvin sat in the back row of the gallery, arms folded, jaw locked. He wasn't here to gloat. He was here to witness. To make sure the man who walked his daughter down the aisle didn't walk away from accountability. Cliff entered in handcuffs, wearing an orange jumpsuit, a shell of the smug millionaire who once bragged about elevating the Brooks family. His once pristine silver hair was uncombed. His skin sagged with stress and sleeplessness. The charges were read aloud by the assistant U.S. attorney. Wire fraud, tax evasion, money laundering, conspiracy. Total, 21 federal counts. And then, the final nail, Mara Brooks, the prosecutor continued, has agreed to testify against the defendant in exchange for a reduced sentence. She has accepted guilt for her role in wire transfers and corporate fraud. Calvin didn't flinch. That night, as he left the courthouse, he wasn't surprised to find Mara waiting for him in the parking lot. She stood near a beat-up sedan, no makeup, clutching a cheap purse. The designer bags were gone. So was the pride. Can we talk? She asked. He nodded, but didn't move closer. They gave me 5 years probation, she said softly. I lost everything. The house. My jewelry. My name, it's gone, Calvin. You sold it. I didn't mean. You meant every step, he interrupted. You meant to exclude me from Grace's wedding. You meant to replace me at the dinner table. You meant to fund your affair with stolen money. She looked away, tears sliding down. I just thought we could rebuild. Calvin almost laughed. I rebuilt everything alone, Mara. I rebuilt my savings, my business, my name. The only thing I didn't rebuild was trust. Because trust, once crushed, stays dust. She stepped forward. I still love you. He shook his head. No. You love what I could offer. And when someone offered more, you ran. Now that the glamour's gone, you on the ground again. But it's not yours anymore. She sobbed quietly, then turned and walked back to her car. Alone. 2 weeks later, Grace knocked on his apartment door. She looked different. Tired. Smaller. Her once glamorous wardrobe replaced with thrifted jeans and a plain top. Dad, she said. He opened the door wider, but didn't smile. I'm sorry, she said immediately. For everything. The wedding. Cliff. Believing Mom over you. It was wrong. He let her in, but stayed silent. I didn't see it then, but Cliff wasn't trying to help us. He was trying to own us. And I let him. I thought class and wealth meant security. But all it meant was cameras at the courthouse. She pulled a folded envelope from her purse, and handed it to him. A refund check from her wedding vendors. I paid it back, she whispered. Every dollar you lost for that wedding. He nodded slowly. I want to be in your life again. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking. This time, he looked at her, really looked, and nodded once. You can visit. She exhaled in relief. That's all I ask. For now. When she left, Calvin placed the check inside a folder marked Grace, paid in full. That night, he stood in his small living room, holding the old silver box again, the one that was supposed to be her wedding gift. He opened it. The pearl necklace was still there, but it wasn't meant for that old day anymore. He would keep it. Maybe one day he'd give it to her, for a better reason. A new beginning. The final surprise came 2 months later. Gavin returned. Not to fight, not to demand, just to work. I need a job, he said, humbly, wearing steel-toed boots and oil-stained jeans. Calvin raised an eyebrow. You ready to earn your name again? Gavin swallowed. If you'll let me. Calvin thought for a long second, then handed him a pair of gloves. Start with the cement mix. And without a word, Gavin walked to the mixer. No silver watches. No shortcuts. Just the son of a man who built everything from the ground up and finally understood what that meant. A pearl necklace. A cracked name change form. And one man, standing alone, but no longer broken. Because real revenge isn't loud. It's earned. Brick by brick.